And it was great what you both actually touched on the same thing, which is despite your diagnosis, you're allowing the disease to define you, right? Yes. You are more than that, and you miss your jobs, and I know, and yeah, it's an amazing career. I heard you saying that this was the first election.
Yeah, that I haven't been on. When you have a career, I didn't even call it a job. I mean, I started in my career in television news production when I was 22, and it was really it was my life. It was 24/7. It was all encompassing. It's how I met my husband. It's where I made my friends. When you move to a new city, when you're just out of college and you don't know anybody, and you're working at 3 a.m, those become your friends for life. And one of the hardest decisions for me since my diagnosis was making the decision to leave work. I simply couldn't do it. I was not doing myself any favors, my health any favors at all. And what my husband would say is, your only job is to stay healthy. Your only job is to, give the medication every chance of success. But making that decision, choosing and recognizing that there can be life after that. I used to say to my husband, there has to be something between work and dying, right? I can't just work until I start dying. There has to be something in the middle. And finding that has been good. It's been hard. It's been an adjustment. And I know that you focus a lot on mental health here at Mind Bloom. And, when your world is shaken like that and you have to make those big decisions, I mean, it takes a toll. It really does.
Are you kidding? So, of course. Yeah.
Well, unlike Anne, I had a job, even though I guess some people would consider it a career, and I've done fairly well, but I was never passionate about it. I liked what I did. I liked my accomplishments. I liked, to be frank, the pay, but I was not committed to it. So when I left the job itself, I was not heartbroken over losing my career. I was heartbroken over being defined as what I had defined myself for a long, long time as, a career woman, a person who made money, made decisions. All of a sudden, it was all about the disease. So in some ways, and if you can talk about silver linings, having found my new passion is really important to me, and it's certainly more than volunteer job. It's a career. Actually, I consider this a new career.
And Victoria does so much for all of us. I mean, the reason that we're all here, that we're all part of the podcast, is sort of the work that she has done with Share in the community. She knows everyone. And it is, I mean, she is passionate about this, and she is passionate about the Helpline, and she is passionate about helping women. I mean, she's launching a new support group in September. She's going to facilitate 2 more support groups. This is a woman who believes in all of us and helping us live our best lives. And we're all so lucky to have found her and everybody. And that's one of the things about, again, I didn't have early stage, so I was never in the sort of movement that exists in that world of community and survivorship. And finding community as a metastatic patient, it's just the number of times I talk to a woman who says, I just don't know anybody who has this. I don't have anyone to talk to. It's just, they're there. You just have to know where to find them. They're in your community, but nobody, they're not talking about it at their church or their school or their whatever. But they're there for people to find, and we want to connect them.
Yes.
Well, and can tell you a very interesting story that actually it's one of those things. We have one of our.
I'll tell it. I'll just tell it very anonymously. But I had Victoria brings all the volunteers together once a month, or we have a training, and we always introduce ourselves every time, even if we know each other, and say something. And one of the women was talking about a support group that she had launched in her local community that had gone virtual. And I had a new caller shortly after that who was looking for support. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I'll let her know that in her community, there's a support group that started. Well, it turns out these 2 people know each other. And when I connected them through a metastatic connection, they actually knew each other from their community. And it was so just fulfilling to just link people together who might not have found each other were it not for the helpline, were it not for whatever. There's a lot of support groups, lots of different places people can find community. But it was just such a neat thing for me to have just heard a nugget in a telephone call about somebody doing something and be able to connect that to a person over here.
It's a small world.
It really is.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's getting smaller and smaller now, surprisingly, right?
I know.
Over these new ways
technologies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I speak with people from Sydney with no trouble at all. Yeah.
It's funny. I was talking to one of my best friends recently, and who lives near me, but we don't get to see each other. And it's almost like the pandemic has equalized all of your friendships. The people who are far away, maybe I'm talking to a bit more because they were home, and you're Zooming and you're doing these things. And the people who live nearby, you see less because you can't see them. And it's sort of, it's a weird phenomenon.
It really is.
It doesn't matter if your friend is 5 minutes away or 500 miles away. They're the same now.
It really is. Yeah. Talk about democracy.
A lot of my friends would tell you that I'm one of those women who lunch. I love lunches. I love meeting friends outside and eating and chatting. And so for me, this coronavirus was a huge loss. But over time, you find, as Anne said, you get to see people you hadn't seen in years. So yeah, it is an equalizer. It really is.
Yeah.
Anybody on the 28th floor? I mean, you're Victor. Aren't you on the 28th floor of your building?
I'm on the 28th floor, and we have so many people move out that half of my floor is empty. Wow. It's crazy. It really is.
Yeah. People are moving out from New York. Yeah. I resisted, but I don't know for how long.
You're still here, right?
Yeah. I'm still in Brooklyn. Yeah. We saw it all.
My son too. My son lives in Brooklyn.
Nice. Give me a few tips, if you have any, about coping with mental health and with a day that doesn't go as well. Or are there any? What do you do? I guess that's my.
What do you do? I think you have to give yourself permission to have emotion and to feel loss and to feel grief and whatever it is in that day. In the first 6 months to a year of my diagnosis, I probably cried every day. Because it made me feel better. It's how I got something out. I think that making sure you take time to do things you love is important to enjoy life. It's one of the things I've been trying to do since I stopped working, is make sure that I spend time with family and friends and do the things that bring me joy, and also give myself permission to be scared and then try to put that, in its appropriate place. Because even though you're metastatic, every single one of us is at a different point in our disease and our treatment and our mobility and our physically, and, every cancer and every person are so unique and so different. But I think you have to let yourself feel, and then let yourself, not move past that, but let yourself recognize that you still have a life. It doesn't define you.
Yeah. What about you, Victoria?
So I was going to give a very flip answer. The drugs.
Sorry, Victoria, did I make it too serious?
Drugs help me, which is true. When you medicate yourself, that helps a lot. So I started taking antidepressants, surprisingly, not because I was depressed, which I think I was, but I did not realize that at the time. The reason I started taking antidepressants was because I have a condition called peripheral neuropathy, which affects your nerve endings. And there have been some studies done that showed that taking small dose of antidepressant helps with peripheral neuropathy. So I happily agreed to do it. And I've been taking them for a very long time now, for almost 7 years. And there was such a subtle difference that I didn't realize. It helped me tremendously with my mood swings and with being able to actually manage the reaction to changes and anxiety. I've had quite a bit of it, and it was very helpful. But there is always a backside to every story, and I had not really given it my thought until recently. And recently, I watched this Australian show where one of the characters, who was clinically depressed and taking antidepressants, said that she really wants to get off them because she always feels beige. And I thought that was such an incredible way to define it, because that's exactly what it is. When you are on antidepressants, you feel beige. You feel the same as when my son got married last year. I kind of, I felt great, but not the way I would have felt had I not been on antidepressants. I lost a very, very close friend a couple of months ago, and I felt exactly the same way. So, so now I question what is better, to have the anxiety under control or not feel beige and feel the feelings that it's good to feel. It's good to feel the loss and the grief and be happy when your son gets married. So yes, when people decide to make serious decisions about medication, that's something to think about.